get you more though. I'll get you more today.
I didn't even know that whole sleeve of something in this car.
Let's see. Hello everyone, good morning. Welcome to the live stream. I hope everyone's having a wonderful day. It's been like crazy warm in New York. It's been like in the 90s every single day for about a week. I actually had no air conditioning in my home for 3 days, which was insane, but I actually fixed the air conditioning issue myself from watching YouTube videos. I analyzed the problem at my house, and I actually rented a machine and I actually fixed my air conditioning, which is unbelievable. But it took a toll on my body. I was in like a crawl space for 3 hours in my attic yesterday morning, but I'm so glad I fixed it. So I really appreciate everyone showing up. I know I delayed this live stream about 15 minutes today. Once again, had a little hard time getting started, but this should be a lot of fun. I know a lot of the people who show up every single week. This is a little bit of a beginner's guide to intermittent fasting, but actually we're gonna answer all your questions. But I'm gonna map out like a 4-week program that even you can follow, even if you've been fasting for years, or if you're brand new to intermittent fasting. Like if you know anyone that you've been like talking about intermittent fasting with who hasn't tried it yet, you know, maybe you can message them or just tell them, share this video with them. I think they'll find it really, really helpful. But let's say hello to everyone. I know we got James here. Oh, hey, good morning, James. Thanks for showing up. I know James is here like every single week. Once again, I'm seeing a lot of messages on my phone that I'm not seeing in this mainstream. Like, for example, I know Miller's here. I appreciate it. Richard from West Virginia, thanks for showing up. That's great. Rosie's here from New York. Enrique, obviously, good morning. Update, my 7-day fast. Oh, wow. He just did a 7-day fast. I had to stop at 73 hours. That's still great, 73 hours. Don't feel bad. Okay, blood sugar dropped to 47, ketosis 5.4, so deep ketosis. If you're a beginner to this, like all this, like the language that I'm talking about, for example, Ricky, he did a 7-day fast, so he was in a state of ketosis, meaning that his carbohydrates in his liver, and it was extremely low. So the liver starts producing ketone bodies and starts converting body fat into ketone bodies, like an optimal fat burning state. So he was in deep ketosis, and you can measure that with like a blood meter, or like a you can inhale into a machine. It'll tell you what like how deep of a ketosis you're in. He's 5.4 is very deep, and his blood sugar is actually 47 is pretty low as well. So he said it was a great experience. We'll do one again. Hopefully my blood sugar will remain a little bit better. Yeah, I know it's hard. I mean, that's pretty aggressive, a 7-day fast. I think you should be really happy with 73 hours, which is great. So I know there's a little bit more of a beginner presentation, but we'll hit on everything. We'll talk about advanced strategies too. We also have, it's interesting, I'm getting messages on both ends here. Some are coming through the YouTube, some are coming through the phone. We got Harry. Good morning, Harry. Thanks a lot, Harry. Thanks for showing up. You're the best. And obviously, Mill, yes, thanks for showing up. And Gene, hey, Gene, thanks for showing up too. I know it's a little late today with the start, so I appreciate you showing up, Gene. Hope everything's good with you. All right, let's jump into it. Let's go over an intermittent fasting guide for beginners. I'm going to map out like a 4-week program. But you'll see, like that last week, the 4th week of this program, and I even gave you like a bonus thing, like a 5th week where we're going to take a diet break, is a little bit more of an advanced strategy that anyone could do. Like I do it all the time. But we're going to go over a lot of the things that I talk about all the time. Well, and also if you're liking this, definitely give me a thumbs up, share it. That means YouTube will show it to more people. Hey, Sean, thanks for showing up too. Hey, thanks for showing up. That's great. From LinkedIn. Whoa, I didn't realize I was being broadcast on LinkedIn, or maybe that's just your profile picture. Not sure. But thanks for showing up. I appreciate it. Any questions, you let me know. Okay, so we're going to go over, first we'll go over just what is intermittent fasting, really simply, right? Intermittent fasting just means that you're compressing your eating window. Like typically people eat pretty much, if they're awake, they're eating, right? They're eating 5, 6, 7 times a day. They wake up in the morning, they start eating. Right before they go to bed, they're eating. They wake up in the middle of the night, grab a cookie. Intermittent fasting just means that you're restricting your eating window. For example, let's say you're going to give yourself 8 hours during the day to eat. That means you're in a fasted state for 16 hours. And that's a real popular strategy, 18-6. But we're going to 16-8, 18-6. We're going to talk about all that in great detail in this. And so you're pretty much just cycling between eating and not eating. Real simple like that. And I also wanted to make a point, which I always do. The difference between intermittent fasting and TRE, time restricted eating, is that when you do these fasting strategies every single day, that means like you're limiting your eating window to say just 8 hours every single day. That would be time restricted eating, time restricted feeding. If you do it intermittently, like once, twice, 3 times a week, I would call that intermittent fasting. And there are pros and cons of both, which we're going to get into. But I would define anything of a fast as, even if you're fasting for 12 hours, I would define that as you're in a fasted state, because most people don't go more than 6, 7, or 8 hours, without eating. So I think 12 to 36 hours is kind of what we're going to focus on in this presentation. It's a great place to start. Even a 12-hour fast has good benefit. And you'll see in week 1 in this 4-week program, it's going to be pretty conservative. You're just going to be fasting for 12 to 14 hours. But let's first define, like, what does it mean to be in a fasted state? So it's really simple. It just pretty much means no calories, right? You're not taking in any calories. And I would define no calories as, like, for example, like I'm drinking a cup of black coffee. There probably is 1 or 2 calories in a cup of black coffee. But in my mind, that's still a real pretty much, there's no calories there, 1 or 2 calories. It's not going to do anything. It's not going to spike your insulin. It's not going to give you a big push in blood sugar. And a lot of people will define fasting in different ways. Like some people will define fasting as anything that doesn't spike insulin. See, insulin is released from the pancreas to lower blood sugar in the store where there's excess calories. So people on a ketogenic diet, like Wiki, to some degree, people who want to get in ketosis, they may put, for example, like fat, like MCT oil, those medium chain triglyceride type oils in coffee. And that necessarily won't spike the insulin, but in my opinion, still will break the fast because there's a lot of calories in fat. So it really depends how you want to define fasting. I'm going to define it for this presentation as no calories or negligible amount of calories, like 1 or 2 calories from a cup of black coffee. Hey, Linda's here. Oh, Linda, thanks for showing up. I appreciate you showing up. That's great. And you're watching on Facebook. Cool. Any questions, Linda, you let me know. All right. And I think Harriet's here too, which is kind of fun. Okay, so So, for example, you can drink any no-calorie type liquids, right, when you're in a fasted state. So I typically, if I skip breakfast and I'm doing like an 18.6 or a 16.8, I'll have my black coffee. Maybe I'll have a cup of mineral, a cup of hibiscus tea. I like hibiscus tea. You can drink like black coffee, tea, herbal teas. Mineral water is my favorite. You should drink half your ounces in weight of water per day. So if you're 150 pounds, 75 ounces of water. Plus, mineral water is high in minerals, right? High in magnesium, a little bit of potassium, a little bit of sodium, which is really good. It really helps in the fasted state, helps to curb appetite. I think it's totally okay to put a slice of lemon, in your water, a slice of lime, a cucumber. There's even some research saying that lemon and lime juice can help lower blood sugar, so it can even help you. Hey, this is cool. I think John Minute, my friend Johnny, just gave me a thumbs up. He's probably showing up. Let's see. Sean's got a question here. Hope I can catch this from a recording. Yes, no, it's recorded. It'll replay, definitely. I try to trim out the beginning of it whenever I post it, because I like to say hello to everyone and like waste like 5-10 minutes before I get into the meat of the presentation. But yes, it will be recorded. I'll generally clip the beginning so you can get right to it. I have a previous appointment, but would like to catch up with you to discuss what is that, 𝙒𝘼𝙏𝘾𝙃? I'm not even sure what that is, but I will look it up. Okay. Looking forward to listening to all of info you are sharing. Okay, great, cool. I mean, maybe like a collaboration or something. I'm not sure what you mean by that, but we'll definitely. I'll talk to you about it, Sean, for sure. And I also like the idea of putting, like I said, like a slice of lemon in your mineral water, maybe a slice of cucumber or a slice of lime. I think those are all good things. You're talking a half a calorie, like next to nothing. Like I said, the lemon, the lime can even help control blood sugar. Maybe help you burn a little bit more body fat when you're in a fasted state. I also think it's totally acceptable and maybe a good idea to put a tablespoon of balsamic vinegar or apple cider vinegar in your water. Helps curb appetite. Plus has acidic acid in it, which also helps lower blood sugar. So these are all good things. Like if you're a purist, there are some people who fast, who do like dry fasting, who only drink water, because technically even caffeine is metabolized in the liver and can somehow, to some degree, break your fast. But I almost think it's a good thing for a couple of reasons. There's something like called your circadian rhythm. Now, your circadian rhythm is your own internal 24-hour clock. It regulates so many different hormones and enzymes and just genes and processes within the body. And it's pretty much controlled by light and like times of day when you eat, when you wake up, when you go to sleep. So if you wake up in the morning and let's say you're skipping breakfast and you're fasting and you have a cup of coffee, that little bit of caffeine in the coffee is gonna like jumpstart your metabolism a little bit, which can be really good in my opinion for your circadian rhythm. But if you can, don't have the coffee the second you wake up. Try to wait about 60 minutes if you can. Let the body really wake up. Let the melatonin come down. Let the cortisol, kick in a little bit before you have that cup of coffee. You probably get even better results, which is good. Hey, Steve, my boy Steve's here. Oh, thanks, Steve, for showing up. I really appreciate it. He's my best buddy. Haven't seen him in a while. Can't wait to get together again soon one day. We're on different coasts right now, but me and Steve are always best friends forever, which is great. Okay, let's talk about all the different types of fasting. I don't know if I like that camera angle. I think I like this one better. Let's see. And if you have any questions, let's break these all down. Break this all down. There's so many different ways to get started with intermittent fasting. And the next slide you're going to see, we're going to go over all the benefits besides just calorie restriction. So first of all, the easiest way to get started is just to do a 12 to a 14-hour fast. And most people don't come close to that. And there's even research saying, there's one great study, and unfortunately there were women who had breast cancer and they were in remission, and they did a study on women who all they did was fast 13 to 14 hours. They were able to drink like herbal teas at night. They just, like, for example, they stopped eating at 7 o'clock, fasted for 14 hours, had a late breakfast. And their reoccurrence of breast cancer was dramatically reduced. I think it was like 60 to 67% less reoccurrence of breast cancer, and they contributed to the fasting. So there are really some great benefits. Plus, just think, when you're in a fasted state, what are you doing? You're burning stored energy, you're burning stored calories, you're burning fat, you're burning carbohydrates. That's stored away, right? So I think even a 12 to 14-hour fast really does have great benefit, and that's the easiest way to get started. A little bit more aggressive is something called 16-8, which I talked about, which you're going to be fasting for 16 hours. Then you take in all your calories. You do eating within an 8-hour eating window. Either you can skip breakfast, it's probably a great way to do it, or you can skip dinner. You can go either way. There's a little bit of mixed research on which is the best way to do it. For years, I felt there was really no difference. Both were excellent. I still think that's true, but there is a little bit more new research saying that if you can possibly take in some protein, take in some calories earlier in the day, it's a little bit better for maintaining muscle mass like hypertrophy. Personally, it doesn't fit into my schedule, so I still skip breakfast. But if you could have, for example, have your breakfast, like say 9, 10 o'clock, and then just have a late lunch, that's probably the best intermittent fasting or time restricted eating schedule. But just do whatever works best for your schedule. We're going to talk about that more as we go. A little bit more aggressive at 18.6, so you just think you're fasting for 2 more hours. We're going to talk about autophagy, some of the benefits, that cell cleansing. Like things like that start kicking in when you get a little bit longer into a fasting. You're taking all your calories within a 6-hour eating window. A little bit more aggressive, which I like too, is a 20-hour fast with a 4-hour eating window. And just think, when you look at these things, in my opinion, the smaller your eating window, the less food you're going to take in. So, for example, if you're doing a 14-hour fast compared to a 20-hour fast, just think about it. And with a 20-hour fast, you're going to be more in a calorie-restricted state. Now, that's one of the biggest benefits of intermittent fasting, time-restricted eating, is that you're actually restricting calories without necessarily having to look up the food and counting your calories. That's why I think this intermittent fasting, time-restricted eating is so successful. I think it's the #1 diet, or just like scheduled way of eating in the country right now when it comes to all these different programs, all these different diets, because it's so easy to do, to just tell someone, you know what, only eat within an 8-hour eating window. And you're going to see when we map out this 4-week program, I didn't start talking about food quality, about cleaning up your diet, until week 4. So you can still get great results with all these strategies, still eating your favorite food, still not necessarily changing the type of food you're eating. Just by restricting your eating window, is going to put you into a calorie deficit. That's what. Hey, Richard. Hey, thanks for showing up, Richard. West Virginia, cool. Well, it must be hot there too, because it's so hot in New York. I think I've been looking, Steve. California, the weather's spectacular. In California, we've been getting killed here in New York. It's like it's like a tropical heat wave. Not only is it hot in New York in the 90s, it's like incredibly humid as well. Like you'll get a crazy thunderstorm for like 15 minutes and it doesn't even break the heat. It's back to like 92, 93 degrees. Unreal. And then even more aggressive than that is a 24-hour fast, right? Obviously, you can't do that every day. You can't fast for 24 hours doing time restricted eating. That would be like an intermittent strategy. And once again, all these strategies I'm talking about, this is something you could do once, twice, 3 times a week, or you can do them every single day and then take a diet break. But we're going to talk about that more when we map out the 4-week program. Hey, Toms. Thanks for showing up again. Poland, once again, very cool. I love it. This is the best. Okay. And then there's something also called the OMAD diet, the 1 meal a day diet. I love that strategy too. That's when you fast for, say, 23 hours, taking all your calories with just a 1-hour eating window. Obviously, really aggressive. Great way to get into a calorie deficit. That's a great strategy to do maybe once or twice a week. Then there's something called alternate day fasting. And there's a few different ways to do alternate day fasting. It can be very similar to the OMAD diet, where you fast for like 23, 24 hours every other day, right? Great way to reduce calories. Also a great way to cycle your calories, where one day you're eating more, one day you're eating less. That can help keep the metabolism up, because whatever you eat, it kind of like boosts your metabolism. But the traditional way, or the way that like the researchers looked at it, like for example, I just read this meta-analysis on alternate day fasting, and it was really very positive for alternate day fasting. They concluded that it even may possibly be more effective than just restricting calories. And what I mean by a meta-analysis, meaning that the researchers looked at like 7 different studies on alternate day fasting and they analyzed them. But a lot of times when they do alternate day fasting in studies, they'll take participants and they do give them some calories. So for example, a traditional way of doing alternate day fasting is to fast for 36 hours, but you're allowed to take in about 500 to 700 calories during the 36-hour fast, and then you eat normally after that. So you're giving yourself like an 8-hour eating window, and you do that like every other day. And it really produces great results. I like alternate day fasting a lot too. Another great strategy. Another thing I really like is just the general 𝙒𝘏𝑚AD. And you can do this in so many different ways. 𝙒𝘏𝑚AD meaning eating only 2 meals a day. Like if you love eating breakfast and you love eating dinner, you can just skip lunch. You're not going to get like as much benefit, in my opinion, of being in a fasted state when you're skipping breakfast or skipping dinner, because you just think your fast is going to be much smaller. But I still think it's a great strategy. It's a great way to reduce calories, and I think it's even also a great way to get started. I would even consider that like part of this intermittent fasting strategy. And then my favorite thing, which we're going to talk about, is if you combined, for example, like a 1680 or an 18:6 or a 24 with a 2 MAD, like only giving yourself 2 meals within your shorter eating window, which I love. And that's going to be kind of like week 4 when we talk about the more advanced version of this. Do you make money through fitness advice? Yeah, I make money through fitness advice. Yes. Well, I own a gym. I've owned the gym since 1989. I have this pretty small personal training gym in New York. So I make most of my income comes from literally me doing the hands-on work of training people, designing, diet programs for people. I've been doing it forever. I've been working in gyms from the age of like 16. And then I make a little bit of money from this online stuff, just from a little bit of ads on YouTube, and then people do one-on-ones with me. And I have this like 1 month like transformation program that a few people went through. It's somewhat expensive though, but people absolutely love it. But yeah, I definitely make money through fitness advice for sure. Okay, so let's break this down. Let's go over some of the benefits of intermittent fasting. If you have any questions, let me know. Am I missing anything from the phone? I don't know. I think it's all good. Okay, let's go. Obviously, benefit number 1, straight up without a doubt, and I'm not an intermittent fasting or like time restricted eating person that says that calories don't count. I do think calories really do count. There are situations where, for example, because I've worked with so many people where things just don't make sense. Like, for example, say you've been restricting calories, or say you're intermittent fasting and you're just not losing weight. That does happen, and it could be because maybe you've been overweight for decades and you've got other like metabolic type issues. Maybe you're insulin resistant, meaning that your cells are not responding to insulin. Maybe you're leptin resistant, meaning that leptin is another hormone that is released from fat cells that tells your brain to stop eating. Or maybe your body, your metabolism in your body is just so out of whack that even though you're restricting calories, you're not losing weight. Then you may have to do some other things, some other aggressive type things. And maybe I would put you on like a 2-day fast then, or a 24-hour fast, or really put you on a very low carb diet. But then again, some people don't do well on a low carb diet, even though that's my favorite diet. So, but generally, the biggest benefit, I think, by far of intermittent fasting is that you're just restricting calories. It's such an easy, simple, great way just to simply eat less. So that's benefit number 1. So Jeff is here. Hey Jeff, I was waiting and stream never. Sorry about that, Jeff. I don't know why. I did start late today though. I did 11:15 start, and then I don't think I started till about 11:18. So I was a little bit off. And then I always have my 5-6 minute clock wind down, and it seems like there's never enough time to get this presentation ready. Whenever I do these live streams. Okay. I think another tremendous benefit though of these fasting strategies is that it increases your insulin sensitivity. See, that's so important. That's why I talk about the person I just talked about, who maybe say they're restricting calories, they're just not losing weight, they don't know what's going on, and they're probably insulin resistant. And what I mean by insulin resistant is that, say you've been overweight for decades, you're 20, 30, 40 pounds overweight, you've been eating a lot of processed foods, you're not eating well. What happens then, unfortunately, is that you become like pre-diabetic, or maybe you even are type 2 diabetic. The meaning that your body's having a lot of trouble controlling blood sugar. See, whenever you eat a meal, whatever calories you're not eating or you're not burning up right then, the pancreas produces insulin to store away those excess calories. Where do they store them? In your muscles and your liver in the form of glycogen. That's where the carbs go. Body fat goes in the fat cells, right? Now, if you've been in this state where you've been just eating too much for a decade or two, what happens is that the body stops responding to insulin. Like, it's hard to lower blood sugar. The pancreas is pumping out that insulin, and it just can't get your blood sugar down. Maybe you've been to the doctor and your A1C, that pre-diabetic, that diabetic number is really high, right? Maybe it's in the 5s, the high 5s, or maybe even 6. Maybe your doctor is thinking about putting you on like a metformin or something to help clear glucose. So that's a real issue, insulin resistance. And I find that even though calorie restriction definitely will also increase insulin sensitivity, I think that fasting is probably the best way to do it. Low carb eating and fasting. Because just think, when there's no sugar running through your bloodstream, right? You're dipping in the stored energy, and your body is just getting that whole process of rest. So then when you do eat, and your pancreas produces insulin, you can really store away those excess calories. So that's the protective mechanism. Like even being able to store body fat is protective, right? Because you don't want your blood sugar to go up. You get really chronically high blood sugar, that's when all the bad things start happening. Some people feel now when you start, like, you know, like I listen to so many different podcasts, like longevity experts and this and that. That's one of the now, some people, some experts and some researchers are feeling now, some doctors saying that controlling blood sugar is such a big indicator for longevity. Like if your blood sugar is chronically high for decades, you may not be able to live as long as someone who really, like, controlling blood sugar. You're going to see, that's why people wearing these 24-hour glucose monitors are getting so popular. It's going to be like another thing to really look at, you know, as opposed to blood pressure, cholesterol, like all things like that. They're really going to look at that fasted glucose, or just how your body responds to when you're eating foods. There's a guy who does it on TikTok all the time. I really like it. He wears a 24-hour glucose monitor. He eats a food, and then 2 hours later, he looks at the spike in blood sugar. So just think, if you're constantly eating unhealthy and you've been eating too many calories for a decade or longer, you're probably insulin resistant to some degree. So this fasting is such a great way to increase your insulin sensitivity. It's one of the keys to living a long and healthy life for sure. Let's see, Justin Matthews, they say, what happened if you did OMAD every single day? You know, I think, well, you look like a pretty lean, fit guy from your profile. I think that would be a really good, maybe short-term strategy. But in my opinion, when you're only giving yourself, say, a 1-hour eating window, you're going to definitely be in a pretty aggressive calorie-restricted state. It's really hard to take in enough vitamins, minerals, nutrients. Specifically, also, it's really hard to take in enough protein, I think, long-term. And yeah, I don't know if you know my formula. I like 0.9 grams per pound of lean body weight. So let's say you're a pretty fit guy who's like 175 pounds, 10-15% body fat. You know, you still want to take in 150 grams of protein. Really hard to eat that much. That would be like 1.5 pounds of red meat or fish in one meal. Kind of hard. So I think the OMAD diet is good to do for a short period of time, where maybe you're aggressively restricting calories. Plus, you also have to be careful of metabolic adaptation, right? When you aggressively restrict calories, your metabolism is going to slow down, and you can over-exaggerate that slowdown if you really aggressively restrict calories. So either you have a couple of options. If you want to do OMAD every day, and I've actually did a video on this, I would do 1.5 meals. I wouldn't do a 1-hour eating window. I would give yourself maybe, do like a 24 or maybe a 21-hour fast, and then you do one protein-rich meal. It could be small, and then have your one big meal. I think that's a great way to do it. But I think the OMAD is best intermittently, where you do it every other day, maybe like an alternate day fast, so you can cycle your calories. One day you're taking a lot more calories than the next day, maybe 2-3 times a week. I would do something like a little bit more like that. I think you do much better, especially looking at your profile picture, and you seem like a real fit, pretty lean guy, you know? I lost weight doing OMAD every day, but body fat dropped slowly. Well, it's interesting, you know. It's hard to say, you know. Also, it's hard to really measure, you know, how much body fat you're losing, how much water you're losing. I think the biggest thing is, and I know you do work out too, the key to all these things is that you have to do some resistance training. You have to be working at it. And if you find that all of a sudden, through these fasting strategies, you start getting weaker in the gym. Like, for example, say you typically can do 15 push-ups. You've been doing that for years, and all of a sudden you start getting to like 12, 13 reps, and you just feel like you can't do it. You can't make 15 anymore. You know that you're losing muscle mass, and you're probably hitting these strategies too aggressively. I'm really reasonable with this, and I'm probably a little bit more conservative than most of the other maybe YouTubers you may see talking about fasting. You know, the main benefit, like I said, number one, is calorie restriction, and the other thing is increasing insulin sensitivity. But I'm a big believer in taking in good quality nutrition, eating enough food, taking in enough protein, you know, taking diet breaks, you know, from time to time. Don't do any fasting. Make sure you're at maintenance calories. And we're going to talk about that more and more. Okay, now some more. There's also some great research on how it's interesting. The study that I read that got the best results for lowering blood pressure was an alternate day fasting strategy. But even I, in my opinion, the 18-6 to 16-8, just think you're increasing your insulin sensitivity, you're losing weight, you're restricting calories, your blood pressure is going to improve, right? Plus, if you clean up your diet, it's also going to help blood pressure. You know, human growth hormone, those counter-regulatory hormones kick in a little bit more on the longer fasting strategies. Maybe not necessarily with a 16-hour fast, but if you start getting deeper into a fast, 20 hours, 24 hours into a fast, the body wants to preserve muscle mass. So those counter-regulatory hormones kick in like a human growth hormone. Testosterone actually increases dramatically on those longer fasts. You fast for like 2 days, your testosterone is going to go through the roof, can go up like 500-600%. It's like incredible. It's great for lowering triglycerides. See, when you eat too many carbohydrates, where do those excess carbohydrates go? Specifically, especially fructose, goes right to the liver. The liver can only hold a couple hundred calories of carbohydrates. It's fructose, right? You start pounding those carbs and just increasing your calories, your triglycerides are going to go up. So in my opinion, a great way to lower triglycerides is through these fasting strategies. Let the liver empty in eating a relatively low carb diet. And I'm not like a ketogenic type. When I say low carb, I'm talking, 100, 150 grams of good vegetables, a couple of fruits, things like that. Oh, Gene, hey, Gene, once again with the super chat. Thanks, Gene. Every week, Gene gives me some money, and I really appreciate it. It helps me keep this channel, keep these live streams going. So I really appreciate it. Okay, I want to do 16-8, but I can't skip family dinner. I know, I feel the same way. And I work out in the morning, 7 a.m. So I'm taking my protein shake and eggs just after. I think that's totally fine. I think that's good, Gene. I mean, you can do that. I think that's totally fine. It depends. Like, so you're working at 7 a.m. I'd say you're working out for an hour, maybe less. So you're trying to say you're taking in your eggs and your protein shake. So you're pretty much just taking in protein and fat. So you're really minimizing the spike in insulin. Plus, you're getting good protein synthesis, right? You just worked out, you created a response. Even though the research is very mixed, like years ago, it was like everybody right after workout, it was so important to like try to take in their proteins like right after workout. I know the research is kind of like debunked that it's more important just taking in enough protein throughout the whole day. I still think there might be a little something to it though, because I did it for years and got such good results taking in like protein, doing like a pre, intro, or post workout type shake, like taking in protein around your workout. I think that's fine, Gene. So you're pretty much like if you possibly could maybe eat dinner a little bit early. I mean, I don't know what time you're eating dinner. If you can try to, if you and the family can sit down and try to have dinner early, like 5-6 o'clock. I don't know about your work schedule. Even a 14-hour fast, I think is great. I know you're on a little bit of a break right now. I think that would be great. Try to have dinner a little bit earlier. But even truthfully, even if you did like a 2-mad, like you're saying, you had your high protein, fat type, post-workout meal, but then didn't snack all during the day and just had your normal, good, healthy dinner, even with carbs, maybe even with sweet potatoes, even with your vegetables and your fat and your protein, that's still a very good strategy, I think. It's like a 2-mad type strategy. You're still giving yourself decent windows where you're not eating. I think it's an excellent maintenance thing, like what you're doing. I know you said you're going to wait until the end of the summer and maybe kick in with something more aggressive. I think that's really doable and really manageable. I really like it. I think it could be great. I do stuff like that all the time. Even when I'm doing like 2-mad. I love to do 2-mad with a protein shake. And my protein shake could be post-workout some days. Say, I typically work out midday. But a lot of times clients cancel on me, with this personal training thing, and I got nothing, it's 10 o'clock, I'm free until my next client at 4. So instead of working out at like 12:01 and breaking my fast 2 o'clock, I may work out at 10 in the morning, and I may even do a protein shake if I'm doing resistance training, but then I just may not, it won't be a carby protein shake. It may just be straight up whey protein. I'll get a little spike in insulin, but not too much, and I use it for protein synthesis. I think it's great. So I'm pretty reasonable. I like that approach, Gene. I think that's great. Let's see. I think you're right. I use Renpro body fats. Yeah, I know those scales. I mean, so you're doing electrical impedance. I'm assuming that's what that is. If you guys don't know, there are these scales that you can step on barefoot, and it kind of sends like a quick impulse electronic signal from your right to your left foot. And you have to enter in. Sometimes you grab these handles. It does it too. You have to enter in like your weight, your age, whether you're like a fit person or not. So it kind of uses this algorithm, this calculation. A lot of it, when you're using a scale like that, has to do with how hydrated you are, because I think the water in muscle creates a quicker signal. It's a little complicated. It's reasonably accurate. It may not be the best. I think it's good as a baseline. Like if you use a scale like that and you step on it the same time every single day, or the same time, like if you're doing it once or twice a week, with the same amount of hydration. Say you're doing it first thing in the morning after going to the bathroom, then you drink a glass of water, and then you step on the scale, and trying to make it as consistent as you possibly can. It gives you a little bit of a baseline. I've got some really low readings on those scales, like, you know, like 7-8% when I know I wasn't that low. I think I was more like 10-11. You know, I can kind of see my abs. I don't even mean 7-8%, and you look pretty shredded, most people, at levels like that. And I've had readings like that on those scales. So they're somewhat accurate. You know, but I do like the idea of weighing in all the time, because it also makes you realize too that so many times when you gain weight, it's just water weight. Like, see, last night we had some friends come over, and I had like kind of like a cheap meal. My favorite thing though, I ordered a half tray of eggplant parmesan, but the place that I get it from makes it without the breading, which that's how I like the eggplant parmesan. But I ate a lot of bread. Like, I had an Arthur Avenue. I got the Arthur Avenue Italian bread, which I love. If you guys don't know, Arthur Avenue is in the Bronx in New York. They're known for like Italian food, and specifically like this Arthur Avenue bread. And it's a real simple bread, meaning that when you look at the label, that's what I like about it. It just says like sugar, salt, yeast, flour, like that's it. So you're getting just the basic, you know, like carbs like that. So I feel it already. I feel like I filled up my muscles with glycogen, so I'm going to be 3-4 pounds heavier today. But, you know, I'll do my fasted walk after this. Let's see. Oh, Debbie's here. That's great. Okay. What would be the best resource to start resistance training for me? Okay. So she's a gal. She's overweight, has lots of health issues and past surgery. So maybe she's like me. Her joints are maybe a little banged up. So many resources for young, over. You know, I have some things. I'm going to do more and more things on my YouTube channel on that. I have one video that comes to mind for you that I made for women over the age of 50, but it's really like an upper body resistance training. I'll send you a link to that. I'll put a link underneath it. But look on the YouTube channel. It's like a chest, shoulders, back routine. I think it would be perfect for you. You know, I really would. You know who else does some? This gal, she has a really popular site. I wouldn't consider her. She seems like a lovely woman. She's Australian. Maybe you're familiar with her site. I think it's called Fabulous 50s or Fabulously Fit Over 50, and she does like really easy like resistance training and really easy, simple, just aerobic type workouts. Like, first she'll do a video, like a talking head video, but then the next video she'll do will just be like a 7-minute like resistance training, which is just doing simple bands movements. Look at her channel, Fabulous Over 50. Once again, I know I talk about this all the time. The crazy thing about YouTube is that, like, for example, that video I'm talking about, which I made for women over 50, like resistance training, I liked the video. It totally bombed. Like, no one watched it. And one of the main reasons is because YouTube looks at my channel now as being more of an intermittent fasting, like weight loss, lowering body fat type channel. If I do videos that are not in that niche, YouTube will not help me promote that video. It's really confusing. If my channel was really big, I had like 1 million subscribers, I'd have much more flexibility in the videos that I do, you know. So, but I still will do some, and I do have a whole bunch on my channel too. But I would look for her Fabulous. I think it's just put in Fabulous 50. Even if you put in like resistance training women over 50, you're gonna see her channel come up because she gets over 1 million subs. And she's such a nice one. I think you're gonna find her pleasant. And nothing she's doing is kooky, just really easy, simple type movements. But you should be doing something though, Deborah, for sure, Debbie. Yeah, I would definitely want you doing, even just like I say, even walking is just like the best thing you can possibly do. You wake up in the morning, you take a 40-minute walk, and then if you can, just do simple like body weight squats, just no weight, just knee bends, you know, some planks, some simple movements. It really goes a long way, you know, for sure. Okay, LOL. I'm not sure how it works. It communicates to the app on my phone. Yeah, it's probably electrical impedance, I think, that scale you're stepping on. I'm pretty much sure it is. That's typically what they have. I weigh myself every morning as soon as I wake up. I think it's a good way to do it. At least there's consistency for sure. And then you can make correlations that way. So if you wake up one day, you're 3 pounds heavy, you say, well, what happened last night? Did I have something really salty? Did I have sushi with a lot of soy sauce? Or did I just have a little bit of bread and rice that I typically won't have? It can't be body fat. It has to be water weight. I like consistent weighing. I think, unless it freaks you out. You know, so I know some people get really upset. Okay. I eat 6 beef patties for lunch at noon, and I have dinner around 5. Well, so that's interesting, Gene. I like that strategy too. So this is what Gene's doing. He's having a high protein, higher fat type breakfast post-workout, right? So he's not getting too big of a spike in insulin, probably a little bit from the protein, but nothing crazy. He's making sure that he has enough protein to fuel the workout, protein synthesis. Then for lunch, he's doing almost like a carnivore. He's making sure he's keeping his protein up, which is great for his stomach. In fact, he's making sure he's taking enough protein. Once again, not really getting much of a spike in insulin, a little bit with the protein. And then I'm assuming you're taking in some carbs and having a little bit more of a normal dinner. I think that's a great maintenance. And Gene's about 250 pounds. He's a big, strong guy. So I think that's a good maintenance schedule. And then, so I'm curious to know, what time do you stop eating dinner? So if you're eating your first meal at 8, are you doing like a 12-hour fast every day, or maybe 14 hours, something like that? If you can do that on top of it, I think it would be great, which is cool. Okay, so let's go to the next. Right. Let's talk about autophagy, because that's another one of the big benefits of fasting. Some people fast just for autophagy. All autophagy means is like it's almost like cell cleansing or cell repair. Like weak and damaged organelles get recycled within the body. Some people think it's really good for longevity. And also, autophagy is somewhat of a never-ending process. Even if you don't fast, you're going to get autophagy to some degree. But it seems like fasting, working out, just when you're dipping into like stored energy, it's almost like when you're down-regulating mTOR. I always talk about mTOR. Like mTOR is the growth signaling for when you like go into like when you're growing. So like when you're eating protein, right, you're stimulating mTOR. But the opposite of that is like AMPK and the sirtuins, when you're like repairing, you're recovering, you're fixing things. So autophagy, some people think, is the most important part of fasting. And the general rule is the longer you go into a fast, the more autophagy you get. So when you're doing a 12-hour fast, maybe you're getting a teeny bit. When you're going 16, 18, 20, 36, that's when autophagy really gets upregulated. So that's another tremendous benefit I think of time restricted eating and intermittent fasting. Calorie restriction also helps with autophagy, but I think the key is to fasting. I just gave this analogy last night when my friends came over. We were talking about this, and he's a big believer in calorie restriction, and I am too. But the difference is, I think this is a pretty good analogy. If you look at bicycles. Let's look at it like this. Let's say you look at like a racing bike, a really aggressive, light, small tire racing bike. A racing bike is excellent at racing, right? Then you have a mountain bike, with those big fat tires. A mountain bike is really excellent for riding in the mountains, but you put it on the street, it's not going to be as fast as like a speed road bike. It's not going to be, as efficient at like turning and maneuvering. And then you got a hybrid. Like a hybrid bike is a combination of a mountain bike and like a racing road bike. So it can kind of do everything reasonably well, but it's not going to be great in the mountains, right? It's not going to be great as a racing bike. And that's how I look at like restricting calories as opposed to fasting. If you're eating 6-7 times a day and constantly spiking insulin, even though you're restricting calories, yes, you're going to do pretty good, right? But if you fasted, like for example, for 16 hours or 18 hours, where you're truly in a fasted state, dipping in the stored energy, right? Keeping, upregulating autophagy, increasing insulin sensitivity, and then taking all your calories with just an 8-hour eating window or 6-hour eating window, you're getting the best of both worlds, right? You know what I'm saying? Like you're not a hybrid. You're not just doing okay. You're really eating, and then you're not eating. And when you're not eating, all the good stuff starts happening. I hope that's a good analogy. My friend last night kind of agreed with me a little bit. Like, kind of understood it because he wasn't that familiar with the fasting. Okay. Okay, we got that. Okay. I have to run. Oh, no problem, run. Thanks. Good. No, fantastic. Hopefully I'll see you next Sunday. I appreciate you always show up. That's great. Yeah. Okay. But for dinner around 6 p.m., I will eat anything. My only restriction are no desserts, and I only drink. I think that's good, Gene. So you're having some carbs. I think that's fine. I think you're going to do good with this. I think it's a great maintenance, and maybe even better than maintenance. I think it's really good. So yeah, I'm sure you're still taking a little bit more protein. You're kind of eating the things you want, maybe even some pasta, some rice, some potatoes. Living a normal life. I think it's great. And then no desserts, and then you're not taking in liquid calories. I think it's a great approach. Could even be modified somewhat, even when you want to kick in again at the end of the summer. Oh, Juicy's here, 168 pounds. You're doing great. I know you just ended, I think you just left a comment on the channel saying you just ended a 72-hour fast, which is wonderful. That's great. Hey, James, let's see what James got to say. Mike, what is a healthy weight loss week if you're trying to drop some pounds? You know, I like this formula. This is like a traditional formula. 1% of your body weight per week is very reasonable. So if you're 200 pounds, 2 pounds a week. If you're 150 pounds, 1.5 pounds a week. And I even look at it like, hopefully it's body fat, right? Pretty much. I think you can lose 1% of your weight in body fat per week. That would think throws things off. Like, for example, if you've been eating a high carb diet or just overeating in general, and then you do one of these somewhat aggressive fasting strategies, you can lose an insane amount of weight the first week. You lose 5, 6, 7 pounds, but it's going to be mostly, or at least 2/3, say, water weight. But I think you can lose 1% of your body weight per week in body fat, that would be a good goal and a reasonable way of doing it, you know, long term, let's say. But you're always going to hit plateaus. It's just how it is, you know. Okay. I can feel in my legs. My body has definitely taken fat from my legs. I can really feel it. That's fantastic. That's great. Cool. Okay, and then the other thing, like, I talked about the reducing cancer. Well, I was talking about that. And what I mean by reducing cancer, I was really referencing that one study for the woman who had breast cancer, who fasted for 14 hours a day, time-restricted eating. The reoccurrence of breast cancer was really dramatically reduced. And also, there's also some good, like, blood, you know, indication from researchers that it's a great way to reduce inflammation. When people do these fasting strategies, those inflammatory markers like C-reactive protein, there are so many of them and so more, but those are some of the C-reactive proteins, like a real basic one. There is good reductions in reducing inflammation, but not, like, once again, I'm reasonable. A lot of these things I'm talking about also is the same thing for calorie restriction, but I just think, in my opinion, intermittent fasting, I think it's better. Even if you're eating the same amount of calories, if you eat the same amount of calories but do it in a shorter eating window, I think it's more beneficial to you. And sometimes some researchers say, oh, you might be the same weight, but you'll live longer if you're doing more intermittent fasting. And I think there's going to be more research decades like that down the road saying that, boy, this intermittent fasting thing really is great for longevity and really is good for you. You know, I think there's going to be more and more research. The animal studies are incredible. I like much more than the human studies, but the human studies too. I think it's going to be coming around. Things get thrown off because I know that big study came out, I don't know, maybe a month ago, and it was over the headline saying that intermittent fasting doesn't work. And what it really wasn't that. It's not that intermittent fasting didn't work. Is that the researchers just compared, and it was a good study. It was a year-long study. They compared calorie restriction to intermittent fasting, and what the researchers said is that intermittent fasting was no more effective. And then when you really look at the study, the people who did the intermittent fasting for the year compared to the control groups did lose 4 more pounds, but they considered that statistically insignificant. So intermittent fasting definitely works. I mean, does it work better than calorie restriction? Is somewhat debatable. I think it does because I think it's so much easier to do as opposed to counting calories. There's so much more, people are much more compliant. And I've been training people for 30, it's embarrassing because I'm turning 60 for me to say 40 years, but I've been training people for like 40 years. And out of all the diets that I've put people on, I find intermittent fasting or time-restricted eating I've had the most success with because it's so straightforward and so simple for people to follow. You tell someone only eat with an 8-hour eating window and then do whatever you want, and people do incredibly well. I think it's great. Okay, so we got... Okay, Juicy got a few questions here. I can feel in my life, right? We got that one. The 72-hour fast was extremely hard on the 3rd day. My muscles fell flat, but the minute I ate it for a while, yeah, he's trying to say, I understand, but he must have depleted his glycogen stores after a 3-day, 72-hour fast. So you lose your water weight, you lose the glycogen in your muscle, but as soon as you eat, it volumizes the muscle so you feel great, which I like it. I liked it a lot. Okay. Muscle feels stronger, possibly. Yeah, also, like you said too, right? When you do a 3-day fast, 72-hour fast, testosterone increases. Some people call it the rebound effect, which is really nice. So some people feel they even gain muscle after doing like a 3-day fast. Once they start eating again and start hitting the gym, and they feel even stronger, which I kind of like. I think that's cool. Say, Richard, slow and steady wins the weight loss battle. I totally agree. It took me 2 years to lose 110 pounds. Whoa, Richard, that's an accomplishment. I'm so happy for you. You did it, 2 years, but that's great. Just think, I mean, wonderful, incredible job there. Thanks for showing up too. I appreciate it. All right, so let's go to the next slide. So let's get into this like easy beginner intermittent fasting program. Once again, if you're enjoying this live stream, give me the thumbs up. Share it with anyone. If you know anyone now who's kind of like thinking about doing intermittent fasting, and they're looking for like a real easy way to get started. These next few slides is going to map out like a 4 or 5 week program to get people started. Let me look at my phone to make sure I'm not missing any comments on this, because sometimes I'm not getting all the comments. No, I think I'm getting them all now. Okay, cool. Okay, let's go over. Okay, so let's say you're brand new to intermittent fasting, or you're just looking to start from scratch to like reboot the metabolism. Maybe you've been doing it too aggressively even, and you just want to just let me go back to basics and get started. I like this approach. So week 1 is just real simple. You're just going to fast to 12 to 14 hours, right? Excellent way to ease into intermittent fasting. And there is a study that I reference all the time that showed that people who just delayed breakfast by 90 minutes, like ate breakfast 90 minutes later, and then ate dinner 90 minutes earlier, so they just shorten their eating window. So maybe there's somewhere in that like 12 to 14 hour fasting, lost body fat, actually lowered their cancer. I mean, they had dramatic improvements. I'm back to that cancer study. That's why I put that keynote on the bottom of it there. They really did incredibly well. And the main reason why they did so well with this is that most of the people who do that just ate less. Just by delaying breakfast 90 minutes and by eating dinner 90 minutes earlier. So that's what I would recommend to a new person. Like if new people sometimes come to me, I say, okay, let's not worry about changing your diet. Let's not do anything crazy. Let's get some momentum behind you. Let's get you losing a few pounds. You put someone on like delayed breakfast, eat dinner earlier. They do this for a week or two. They're 2-3 pounds lighter. They say, well, that's not so hard. I can do that. So I think this is a great way to actually get started. Real simple like that. When I flexed my arm, felt weird. Well, I mean, that could happen. Who knows? Maybe you overdid a little bit, Okay, so that's week 1. Real easy way to get started. 12 to 14 hour fast, delay breakfast, eat dinner 90 minutes sooner. And now we're going to get into a little bit of a real typical way of doing intermittent fasting. But I have to say, I have put people, like a new person, on fasting and say, don't eat for 16 hours. And they say, Mike, I don't think I can do it. That's why it's good to maybe start with a 12 to 14 hour fast. It creates momentum, creates confidence. Some people can have a hard time going right to a 16-hour fast. But this is I think this is one of the core schedules to follow. Great way to burn some body fat. Excellent way to reduce calories. Just then you're going to be reducing calories even more than the 16-8. And at this point, if you're new to this, don't even change your diet. Either skip dinner or skip breakfast. Super simple. Stay well hydrated like I talked about. You can drink your black coffee. You can drink your green tea. You can drink your herbal tea. Drink your mineral water. You can put lemon, lime, cucumber, apple cider vinegar in your mineral water. Real simple 16-8. Great way. Also, now you're starting to get into that area where you really are increasing insulin sensitivity, dipping into stored energy. This is week 2. I think you'll be ready for it after doing week 1. Okay. I'm not sure if I saw your last comment. Not sure. Understand what I'm saying? Well, okay. On the second day of symptom fast, my arm felt like it was burning, but it wasn't painful. Hard to explain, even though when I flexed. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah, well, if you're working out, like pretty hard and you haven't eaten for 2 days, your body's somewhat in somewhat of a shock. I'm not exactly sure what you mean by burning. I mean, the metabolites do build up. It's interesting because most people think the burning is like lactic acid. Lactate is really the hydrogen that creates that acid environment. The lactate almost buffers it to some degree. It's hard to say what's going on, Juicy. I'm not sure, but I mean, as long as you feel good now, I probably wouldn't aggressively work out. Like when I fast more than 36 hours, I pretty much just walk. I don't really push it too hard in the gym. If I do a 2-day fast, or definitely a 3-day fast, I'm walking comfortably the last 2 days. I don't even do like a HIIT type thing, nothing like that. Okay, so then week 3. So week 3, a little bit more aggressive, and this is probably, if you know me and you follow me, this is my favorite like long-term intermittent fasting strategy. I love 18-6. I like an 18-hour fast, and the reason is that those extra 2 hours really do make a difference, in my opinion. Like, for example, if you're not changing your diet, it gives you a little bit more to dip into those 2 hours of body fat, those 2 hours of stored calories. Like, you're dipping into those glycogen stores in your muscles and your liver. Those extra 2 hours kind of kicks in that autophagy a little bit more. I really love it. See, me personally, since I eat a relatively low carb diet, see, I'm eating 100, 125 grams of carbs a day, and I'm really active. When I do an 18-hour fast, I can probably dip into like a mild state, like a 0.5, not like Ricky, who's like 5.4. I'm talking maybe 0.5-ish, like just kind of in a mild state of ketosis with an 18-hour fast because I eat so good and I'm so active. I really like the 18-6, and my favorite, but I know I'm jumping away from this beginner guide, but my favorite long-term strategy, and I know I talk about it all the time, is 18-6 too mad with the protein shake. I absolutely love it. We're going to talk about that in the next slide a little bit too. Okay. I only did aerobic exercise walking, but I feel great now, and on Monday doing 2-day fast, one to get the one. Okay, sounds good, but don't go too crazy with these extended fasts. I mean, like they're saying, you know, take your time with it. If you find yourself getting weaker in the gym, like you just can't move as much weight, or you can't do what you normally would do, even aerobically, you're hitting this fasting stuff, you're doing too many long-term fasting too aggressively, you may want to space them out a little bit more. Just use that as your gauge. If you start getting weaker, or maybe you're not sleeping well, or something like that, because I know you're doing a lot of these 2-day, 3-day type fasts, like back to back. Just be a little careful with the juicy. Don't overdo it. I mean, you'll get there. I can see you're motivated. You will eventually get there. Okay, so let's go to week 4, and this could even be somewhat of an intermediate to advanced. This is when I'd like people to start not only like cycling calories, because they've been in a calorie deficit now for probably 3 weeks. I also would like them to clean up their diet. So let's talk about this strategy. I like this a lot too. This is where, for example, one day you would do a 16-8. So let's say you're eating like 3 meals within an 8-hour eating window. So maybe you're on maintenance calories doing that, or maybe you're in a slight calorie deficit. And then the next day though, you're going to be doing 18-6, where you fast for 18 hours, taking all your calories in a 6-hour eating window, but you're only eating 2 meals. So that day you're definitely going to be in a calorie deficit. And I know I'm like a broken record about this, but I'm a big believer, and it's a little debatable, but I really like that metabolic adaptation concept of cycling calories, meaning that whenever you lose weight and whenever you become smaller, your metabolism slows down. It's called metabolic adaptation. But you can over-exaggerate that, right, by restricting calories too long, too aggressively. Like when you talk about those studies they've done on the people from that TV show, The Biggest Loser, who aggressively restricted calories and worked out like crazy, they really kind of like really messed up the metabolism. Even years later, 2-3 years later, their metabolism was even reduced. It didn't even pop back up. So by cycling your calories, like some days eating more, other days eating less, you can still be in a calorie deficit, but you can minimize that metabolic adaptation. But it's going to happen to some degree no matter what when you're smaller. So that's why I love these, when you like change your fasting strategy without necessarily counting calories. It'll happen automatically. On a day when you're eating 3 meals, fasting for 16 hours, you're going to eat more. So say you do that on a Monday, but on a Tuesday, you do an 18-6, you fast for 2 more hours and only eat 2 meals, you're going to be in a pretty good calorie deficit. So I love that for week 4. And this is a strategy you can do indefinitely, for long-term weight loss. Going to be eating more some days, eating less other days. Plus, you can take an adequate nutrition, with these 8-hour and 6-hour eating windows. And I also, week 4, since people have confidence, they have some momentum, they've lost weight, they were a believer into this intermittent fasting, this is when I would like them to start, cleaning up the diet a little bit. Getting rid of the trigger foods, getting rid of like the real junk food. If you've been doing these fasting things that have had success, but you're still eating the processed foods, the cookies, the cakes, the pretzels, the chip, you're still eating the junk food. Week 4, I'd like you to start cleaning up the diet. And the first thing I always say is first get rid of the trigger foods. The trigger foods are foods that once you start eating them, you can't stop. For me, it's potato chips. I actually had some potato chips last night. Just was kind of like a cheat meal last night. I feel like eating them right now because but they're done. They're gone. They're out of the house. We even had half a bag left. It's in the garbage already because I can't have them around me. I'll eat the potato chips. So that's what I tell everyone. Sit down, write down your 5, 6, 7 trigger foods. Tell everyone around you, I do not want these foods around me. Tell your husband, your wife, your partner, your kid, do not bring me these foods. That's the first thing to get out of the house. And then you know what the junk food is, right? No cookies, no cakes, no donuts, things like that. And then just eat like a normal meal. I lean more towards that low carb, whole natural food diet, and I'll show you some slides and I'll show you some meals how I typically eat, like in the next in the Q&A in the next slide. But now I think week 4, time to clean up your diet. Just all these fasting strategies, you will always do better when you're eating healthy. And if you just ate a whole food diet, right, you're gonna do better. That's the way to eat. Even if it's not low carb, even if you're eating a reasonable amount of carbs. But my basic thing, like if I had to break down my macronutrient ratio, my favorite. And your macros, if you know, are just your macros are your proteins, your fats, your carbs. Some people consider alcohol to be a third macro because there is 70 calories per gram of alcohol. Let me see. Do we have a question from Gene? Listen, let me answer Gene's question first. Okay. I would like to fast 1 day a week, Mondays, but as I told you, my meals are very regimented. Now, yeah, Gene, I wouldn't worry about it, Gene. I like your plan a lot. You're eating 3 meals a day. I think you're keeping your calories and your carbs and everything really under control because your first 2 meals are just protein and fat. You get a good thermic effect. You're taking enough protein. If you want to maybe do an OMAD on a Monday, but then maybe instead of doing an aggressive workout in the morning, maybe just like take a walk first thing in the morning. And I think that's fine. But it's really, if you're at like 250 and you're maintaining that and you're really happy and you're enjoying yourself this summer and having fun, you can wait till the end of the summer and then start, and it's up to you. It's up to you. Just, and like, this is a whole psychological process, this whole weight loss thing. I mean, I don't know. You seem to be the type of guy who likes to do it in spurts where you're really going for it. And then you ease back. That's more how I am. I can relate to you in that. I like to do it, and then I like to take a break. So if you're enjoying this break and you're doing good, I don't want to throw you off, but I like what you're doing. And then you maybe psychologically you want to just gear up and then really go for it. But like you say, you don't want to do a hybrid. You don't want to be, kind of fasting, not fasting. But if you want to do a Monday, I think that's fine too. I think you're on the right page. I think you're doing really well. Okay, so let's go over the macros. So I think my favorite macros when you're eating a whole natural food diet are just going to happen ideally automatically. And this is what I mean. Like if you're eating a whole natural food diet, let's say you're eating like salmon and you're having avocados and you're having like just vegetables, maybe 1 fruit, maybe a cup of berries for the day, right? You're eating eggs. You're avoiding the processed food. You're avoiding like the pasta, you're avoiding the bread, you're avoiding the rice. Maybe you're having a sweet potato even here and there, or like a white potato, having some potatoes. You're having some starches, but nothing crazy. And then you enter your food into like MyFitnessPal, your calculator. It's going to turn out that most of your calories are going to come from fat, right? Because just think avocados, whole eggs, salmon, sardines, even just red meat, even if it's leaner, most of your calories are going to come from fat. So that's where I come in. 55% of my calories probably come from fat. I always like to eat an adequate amount of protein. I eat about 150 grams of protein a day. I know Gene's following that too. Even if you went with 1 gram of protein per pound of like your ideal weight of what you want to weigh, that's a great formula to follow too. And then then I like to keep my carbs relatively low, about 100 grams. So say you're eating just most of your carbs are coming from vegetables, maybe a bowl of berries, maybe some low sugar fruits. That's the way to eat. That's a whole natural food diet. You're going to fall into it. So even though most of my calories come from fat, I'm not chasing, I like to use that term, I'm not chasing fat. I'm not trying to increase the amount of fat in my diet. Like I'm saying, I'm not putting the fat in my coffee. I'm not putting mayonnaise on everything. I'm not putting butter on top of my steak, right? I'm not doing things as, I want to eat a high-fat diet. I'm just eating a whole natural food diet, and I'm not worried about the fat that's in the whole natural foods I'm eating. And my triglycerides and my cholesterol is perfect, and my blood work is really good. But I'm also eating a lot of fiber because I am eating up like 2-3 servings of vegetables. I may have an arugula salad every day. I also like those protein bars. I eat those no-cal protein bars, which have 15 grams of fiber. I may have a Quest protein bar that has 16-17 grams of fiber in it instead of doing a protein shake. So I think that's the key. But let me give you some ideas on. Because I know I do this every single week. Just a couple of meals that I think I only pulled 2 meals today that I've been eating. And this is like I even did a video on this. Didn't do too well either because it was a little out of the niche on my bison. This is buffalo chili. Me and my wife make this. I absolutely love it. So, you know, we make it with only like lean buffalo meat. We use a lot of green peppers, onion, and I try to keep the carbs down. So even though the recipe calls for like 2 cans of kidney beans, I put half a can of beans. That's how I kind of control the carbs. But even beans are a pretty good form of fiber and protein and all that, you know. But I still want to keep the carbs kind of down. And then I have a secret ingredient which I put in this. If you want to look at this exact recipe, go to the YouTube channel and just put in buffalo recipe under my channel. You'll see it. I mapped the whole thing out. I even filmed myself cooking the whole chili. I thought it was a good video. It didn't do too well though, but I really liked it. So a bowl of chili like that, it's hard to see how big that bowl is because that Italian dish next to it is tremendous. I'm probably getting 60 grams of protein. There's got to be 8 to 10 ounces of lean bison right there, you know, which is great. I really love it. And then you're getting the tomato sauce, you know, which is so good for you too. And just to increase the amount of fiber in the meals, this is how I'm always thinking. I have an avocado, right? So an avocado has about 15, 17 grams of fiber in it. You know, I try to eat 35 grams of fiber a day, which is great. Plus super high in potassium. It's a superfood in avocado. Then and I've been really hooked on this lately. I always want to try to increase my amount of omega-3 fatty acids. Good for your brain, good for reducing inflammation, so good for you. So I put a tablespoon of salmon roe fish eggs in the hollowed out part of the avocado. I love how they taste. Some people don't like it, but I love it. It has some salt in it. It's a little fishy, but they're so good for you. Like I said, I've been buying them at Whole Foods. They're on sale right now at Whole Foods, like a nice size container. I get 2 or 3 servings for like $10. They're typically 15. I mean, caviar now, you can spend hundreds, but you can buy affordable, you know, caviar like this. And this is the Whole Foods brand. It's only like $10. It's on sale right now. I don't know what state you're in, if it's on sale, but in New York it is. And then I just to make this meal a little bit more fun, I just threw like a whole bunch of like maybe, what's that, a half a cup of blueberries. I mean, this is a perfect meal. But if you took this meal and you threw it into my fitness pal, I'll do that one time for you. You're going to find that most of the calories are probably coming from fat. Even though the bison is lean, there's still a decent amount of fat there. The avocado is mostly fat from the calories, right? But I'm also getting a decent amount of fat, but healthy fat from the salmon roe fish eggs. So if you looked at the calories in this meal, you're going to talk about 50-60% of my calories are coming from fat. But I'm also getting incredible nutrition, right? I'm getting a ton of fiber from the avocado, from the peppers, from the onion, from the beans. I'm getting a relatively good amount of protein, probably 60 grams or so of protein. I'm also getting a little extra fiber from the beans and a little bit more protein there, so maybe I'm up to 65 grams. Good nutrition in the onion and the pepper. Great antioxidants in the blueberry. This is just like a killer meal. I mean, right? You can't eat better than this, in my opinion. I mean, obviously, if you're a vegan or vegetarian, you don't want you don't want the bison, but you can have this. You can have the avocado. Well, you may not want the fish eggs either. This is not a vegetarian or vegan meal, but I say you can make a vegetarian chili. The problem with the vegetarian and vegan is that you're going to be upping your carbs to get that amount of protein, which to me is not the greatest thing. That's why I like protein powder, like hemp seed and pea protein when you're a vegetarian. Supplement your diet for sure. But let me show you. I think I got a couple of other meals. Let me show you that. I think Jeff's got a question here too. I think James asked a question first. Let me get James first. I've been using raw honey to get some carbs. Like with my steak. No, I think that's good. My brother's really into raw honey. I think that also is into raw honey, that carnivore guy. I always talk about him too, Paul Saladino. The guy who lives in Costa Rica. He's a doctor. He wrote that book, the Carnivore Code. Great book. He uses a lot of raw honey. You think there's a lot of benefits to raw honey? I think that's fine, James. Let's see what Jeff's got. Okay, I'm doing modified alternate day fasting. You know what, James? Jeff, I know you've been asking for me to do. I will do a live stream on alternate day fasting. I almost was going to do it today, and I couldn't find this one study that I wanted to reference. But let's see. Okay, alternate day. I've been doing ADF, alternate day fasting. Still experimenting with what meal timing works best. My body is being resistant to fasting, giving me some aches. Sorry about that. I mean, it happens. You hit these plateaus. I think alternate day fasting is a pretty good aggressive strategy. I'll talk about it quickly in that. I don't think you were here in the beginning. That there's a few different ways of doing it. Like most of the studies, though, when you look at alternate day fasting, it is when people fast for 36 hours, but they do take in about 500 to 700 calories, and that actually produced pretty good results. you may want to try something like that. Maybe taking in a little bit of calories, maybe taking in some protein and some fats if you feel like you're hitting plateaus, and maybe it'll be more sustainable for you, as opposed to doing strict alternate day fasting where you're just fasting for, say, 36 hours with no calories whatsoever. Or maybe you can alter intermittently alternate day fasting. One day when you're doing the alternate day fasting, go no calories, then eat, right? The next day you do your alternate day fasting, maybe take in 500 to 600 to 700 calories or like some protein and fats, or maybe even a little bit of carbs, something like that. Maybe try that. You got to just experiment. And sometimes, you get stressed. There could be other factors. Maybe you're not sleeping good. I know you're playing a lot of tennis. Maybe there's things going on that's stressing you out a little bit. Who knows? Maybe the cortisol level is a little elevated. There's so many different factors. But, don't drive yourself nuts. And if you feel like you need to just take a break, take a week or two off. It's the end of the summer, for a week or two, go to maintenance calories and then kick in again. That's always a good strategy to do too, Jeff. You keep that all in mind. And I'll give you another example of a perfect meal. I think this is another perfect meal too. We got 4 pasture-raised eggs there. Great source of protein. Good, good source of healthy fats because, they're pasture-raised eggs. Oh, I haven't been doing 0 calories. More like, so you are doing the traditional way of doing the alternate day fasting. So maybe then you might want to try 0 calories during the fast. Stay well hydrated. And even, maybe you want to do this. Why don't you try this too? This is another kind of a cool thing. You can do your 36-hour fast with 600 to 800 calories, like the studies are showing. But then when you're doing your next alternate day fast, why don't you maybe just do a 24-hour fast with no calories? So you kind of be cycling between alternate day, 24-hour. It'll make the no calorie part a lot more sustainable, a lot easier. Like a 24-hour fast, you can do that. 36 hours with no calories at all, if you're used to taking in 600 to 800, could be a little bit challenging. So maybe you want to try that. Alternate day, 600 to 800, eat normal. 24-hour fast, no calorie, eat normal. Alternate day fast, 600 to 800. Maybe try that and see if that works. Sometimes you got to just mix it up, and see what works. So this is like a great meal. And I also have, you may not be able to tell here, but I also have 100 grams of arugula. It melts up and just whittles down so quickly in the egg. So I'm getting my nitrates for nitric oxide. My favorite microgreen is arugula. It's such a healthy microgreen to eat. Getting my protein and fat from the eggs. Once again, the avocado, the fish eggs. And this time I gave myself some strawberries and blueberries. This is like perfect eating. But once again, if you put this in MyFitnessPal, most of the calories in this meal is going to be fat from the healthy fats in the avocado, the fish eggs, and the healthy fat from the whole eggs. But I'm still getting a good amount of protein, still getting a great amount of fiber. Those omega-3 fatty acids for my brain and to reduce inflammation. This is like a perfect meal. Let me see what else we got here. Let's see. I think I got one more meal. Let me close. Yeah, let me close this one out. Yeah, there's another one. I think I just gave 3 today. This is just like a typical. This could even be just an excellent dinner, or it can be a great. It could be a great lunch. So what I have here once again is my arugula. I think this was a combination of a mixture between 50% arugula, 50% spinach, so arugula spinach salad, tomatoes. The tomatoes, I guess we're going into tomato season because the tomatoes have been great in New York. I got a whole bunch of tomatoes here. Then I have, I think this is steelhead trout. My wife's been buying a lot of steelhead trout lately. Love it. Probably got 8 to 10 ounces of steelhead trout there, 50, 60, 70 grams of protein, an avocado cut up, got my blueberries. I also think it's important to eat a rainbow color of fruits and vegetables, different vitamins, different minerals, different nutrients, right? And you might be able to see it. I always too, and sometimes I don't talk about it when I'm doing these other meals, but I always try to take in some vinegar. So this is also seasoned with just like some sea salt, some pepper, and I also have some extra virgin olive oil on there, so getting a little bit more fat there. And then I have some balsamic vinegar. And balsamic vinegar, just like apple cider vinegar, is high in acidic acid, and acidic acid helps clear glucose. It's good. It helps slow the digestive process. It's a great thing to do when you're eating. So sometimes if I'm not putting balsamic vinegar on a salad or on a meal, and I've talked about this before, I know Gene does this too, I'll take a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, just 1 tablespoon, and you got to put it in water because it can burn your esophagus, and I'll drink that right before the meal or right after. I generally like to drink it right before. It also kind of curbs your appetite a little bit. It's another great thing to do when you're fasting. So this is what I mean by good healthy eating. You know, you can't eat better than this. You can't go wrong if most of your meals, if 90% of the time you're eating all whole natural foods like all the ones, you know, I just highlighted here. This is just, I have one more, nothing that's with just Jeff. I don't know how your comment got down there, Jeff. Who knows? All right, so let's go. So what we've been doing like an hour 17. Any questions before I go on my 2 hour? I think I'm only going to walk for like 90 minutes today. I'm a little tired today. We were up late last night. We had friends up. Like I said, I had my cheat meal last night. So I do feel kind of pumped up. But I also, like I said, we had no air conditioning for 3 days in this insane heat. And I'm kind of proud of myself that I figured out how to fix it from just watching YouTube videos. But my neck is killing me. I was in I can't stand up in my attic. And I was hunched over for like 3 hours trying to fix this air conditioning unit. My neck is killing me. My back is bothering me. It's funny because I have a new client tomorrow starting with me. And I feel like I'm not going to have a hard time showing the poor guy how to work out when I can't barely move myself. But I'll be better in a few days. Let's see what Jeff's got to say. Okay, so you're saying do a 24-hour fast. At the end of it, have more calories. Okay, yeah, you can do a couple different things. Either you can experiment with the amount of calories. Okay, let me just recoup and just really understand what you're doing. So you're doing like traditional alternate day fasting, where you're fasting for 36 hours, but during that 36-hour fast, you're giving yourself 600 to 800 calories. Then you break your fast, you have like an 8-hour eating window, and then you're just eating normally the next day, and then you repeat the process again. That's like a traditional way of doing 36-hour alternate day fasting. So I'm saying that maybe what you want to do is you can do a couple of things. Either you can just eliminate the calories on the second day you do the alternate day fasting, or to be a little bit less aggressive, you can do a 24-hour fast. So this is what I mean. You do your 36-hour fast, eat 600 to 800 calories, right? You break your fast, right? You eat within that 8-hour eating window, but then you're eating normally the next day, and then you go back into an alternate day fast. So I think you're even, unless you're literally just doing that 8-hour. I know it's hard to figure out. Unless you mean you're just taking in 8 hours of eating, and then you're doing an alternate day fasting in the next day. I mean, some people do it like that too. That's really aggressive, where you're fasting for 36 hours, eat for 8 hours, go to sleep, you know, alternate day fast again. I mean, I'm not sure exactly how you do it. I'll do a live stream on this. I give you all the different scenarios. But what I'm just trying to do with you is just to mix up the amount of calories you're taking in. Make sure you're getting in enough good nutrition, enough protein, things like that. Because I know you're playing tennis and I know you're moving around a lot. You know, so let's see. I'll come back to your question, Gene. Let me see what Jeff's trying to say here. I haven't actually been counting the hours, just doing it day by day, as in have a low calories as I can. One day, eat however many I want. I like that. I kind of like that. That's like a reasonable way of doing it. It's funny because I did a video on alternate day fasting years ago, and people ripped me apart because I was talking about what you're doing, and they said that's not alternate day fasting. You got to fast for 36 hours, and I like that. So one day you're just not eating, right? But you're taking in like a little bit of calories, 600 to 800. You're not necessarily watching too much. The next day you're eating normally. I like that. But if you feel like you're stuck and it's just not working for you, you might have to tighten it up a little bit. Maybe you want to use MyFitnessPal and just maybe you want to look at calories, not indefinitely, just for a week or two. Or maybe you want to just do that, like I'm saying, do a 24-hour fast where you're taking in no calories, the next day eat. Maybe you want to do something like that, a little bit more. Well, that's what Gene's got to say. Okay, I will indeed wait for Labor Day to start the very low-calorie diet again, but now I'm aiming for one much better, Gene. I like it so much. So when you're doing the very low-calorie diet, you're gonna up your calories to 1,000. I think that's great. I think you can even go like 1,200-ish. Because we just want to make sure you, like you say, you're staying with a good amount of the protein. I love it. I think it's great. That's great, Gene. Let's see. Okay. Is the every other day diet still like Dr. Christian Van? I'm not sure about that doctor. I think you mentioned him before. I got to check out. I'm not sure of that, but I do like the every other day diet. I think it's a great way to do it because it's just the ultimate way of cycling calories. Like one day you eat, one day you don't. Right? I think it's a great way of doing it. It's almost like doing like the OMAD diet every other day. Like one day you fast for 23 hours one day, eat one meal, The next day, you eat normally, you're at somewhat maintenance calories, then you're in a calorie deficit the next day with 𝙒𝘏𝑚𝑎D, because a 24-hour fast is almost like 𝙒𝘏𝑚AD, whether you're fasting 23 or 24 hours, right? That's almost like the Eat Stop Eating program. Dr. 𝙒𝘏𝑃𝙗, I think I figured, is that his name? That's one of the first books I ever read about fasting, like 20, like maybe 14, 15 years ago. It's called the Eat Stop Eating, where you just fast for 24 hours, like twice a week, which is great. Like on a Monday and a Thursday, you just pick 2 days. That's a great diet, I think. See, the whole key to all these things is you still want to make sure you're taking in enough vitamins, minerals, nutrients, and taking in enough protein. And you can really overdo it, with these strategies. So, and I know it's a delicate balance of trying to figure that out. And how do you figure out like a long-term strategy? But you're always going to hit weight loss plateaus, and you're always going to have to change things up and things. It's just it's not easy, right? It's the hardest thing. Like I've been training people and talking about this stuff for like over 30 years, like I said, and it's pretty easy in my opinion to get people working out, exercising, especially if they come to a gym. It's so much harder to get your diet in line. It's like 365, 24 hours a day. There are so many ways where you can mess up and just overeat, and it's the hardest thing. That is the why I do like the fasting so much, is that when you just say you're not going to eat for a particular period of time, it's really compliant. People can really do it. So Jeff, if you're a little stuck, maybe you can even take a week off and then regroup and just pick a strategy. I like the every other day. I think that's a great way to do it. One day you eat, one day you fast for 23 hours. Maybe do an 𝙒𝑚AD. You fast for 24 hours if you want. If you want to do like a whole full 24-hour fast, just make sure that on the days that you're eating, you really are taking in, enough protein, enough vitamins, enough minerals, enough nutrients. And I would still say that, in my opinion, that's still a short-term strategy. But if you just did a 24-hour fast twice a week, I think you can do that somewhat indefinitely. Because 5 days a week you can take in good nutrition, and then you're doing 2 like no-calorie days, put you in a nice calorie deficit every week, every month, while still taking in good nutrition. But it seemed like just the fact that you're talking about every other day and multi-day fasting, it seems like you're okay with these like 24, 36-hour fasts. It seems like that works into your schedule. You seem to like it. So just figure out a way where it just works. Whether you do it once, twice a week, whether you're just doing a 36-hour, doing a 24, you gotta just experiment and see what works. And then try to focus on, though, when you do eating good quality food, more like what I'm talking about in these pictures. Try to eat along the lines of that. If you're not a fish guy or whatever, you don't have to. It doesn't have to be fish, but eat a whole natural food diet. It'll go a long way for sure. All right. Any other questions out there? Is anyone else going to go for a walk like me after this? Anything? All right. So that's it. All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for showing up. I really appreciate it. And also, Gene, thanks for the super chat. That's so nice. Yeah, thanks, Steve, for showing up. Stevie, I can't wait to see you one day. We got to get together. I got to get out to California. Maybe this winter. We'll do something like that. I love fish, but not avocados. Yeah, sure. All right. Well, I appreciate everyone showing up. I hope you're getting outside, getting the sunlight. Thanks, Cheers. Thanks for showing up, getting the vitamin D. You can tell I've really been enjoying walking outside in the sun. I love the vitamin D, being in the sunlight, getting a little tan. Feels good, makes me feel good. All right, take care, everyone. Have a wonderful week, and I'll see you next week. I just want to say another side note. Check out my TikTok channel. Every video I do on TikTok is just exploding. I'm almost up to 20,000 subscribers on TikTok. I did another video last night. I got over 200,000 views on the video already. So check me out on TikTok too. All right, and have a wonderful Sunday, guys. Thanks for showing up again. Take care. Bye bye. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks for showing up, Jeff. I appreciate it. Take care, everyone. Take care, Gene.